Welcome, everybody, to Shoot the Gap, the IDP Fantasy Football podcast here at Fantasy and Frames. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards. With me, I got Steve Hungarter. I got JT, Justin Taylor. We are here to talk to you about some of our favorite plays and fades for week 5 of the fantasy football season in your IDP Fantasy Football leagues. Before we get into all that, we see Epic Fail. We see you. We understand your screen name now. So thank you very much. We will get to that question in 1 second, so sit tight. Before we get into everything else here on Shoot the Gap, gentlemen, let's go around the frame. Steve, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Hey, pretty good. I set up an OnlyFans page. I took Gary Davenport's advice. Wanted to give the audience, let people know what I do at night, make a couple bucks. So I'm trying it out.
Yeah. So I'm going to do that too, and people are going to see live streaming videos of me on spreadsheets. And
hey, JT,
stat pages.
Nobody wants to spend money on me eating snacks 2 a.m. That's what they're going to see.
So, it's funny in preparation.
Yeah, that's about the same with me, man.
In preparation for this show, because we have talked about burgers and filet of fish and all sorts of sandwiches, I have a nice from lunch saved triple cheeseburger from McDonald's in the refrigerator. So as soon as this show's over, you're not going to get me saying, I wish I'd had this, sandwich with me because we're talking about this now. I have it with me. It's upstairs. So I'm ready to go. Thank you very much. JT, how you doing, man?
Doing well, fellas. Good to be here. Just got back in town from Ohio, so went and saw the Lumineers last night. It was amazing. When my cousin Kirk, who lives in there, it was pretty awesome, man. We had a great time.
You should have led with that.
My cousin Kirk. It was great, man. They played at where Ohio State basketball team plays, the Shot. It was pretty amazing. I saw him one time earlier this summer. My cousin make the indie show, so we bought tickets to both shows. Fantastic both shows. If you ever get a chance to go see them, go see them. They were great.
So a little bit of a sad story. I was dating somebody back in 2011, and we had gone on like 4 or 5 dates, and things were going well, and I thought things were going great. And she had mentioned in passing that she wanted to go see, or she was a fan of the Lumineers, and so she would always have like the Lumineers playing in the background whenever we were hanging out. So they were coming to a festival stage near us, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get tickets to go see the Lumineers. Got the tickets. Then she broke up with me when I went to go get her to her. I was like, hey, I got a surprise for you. So broke up with me. I didn't go. I was upset, And so now in my mind,
shit.
Yeah, she really ruined the Lumineers for me, so I can't go see them now.
Dude, she's an awful person. She ruined the Lumineers for you. That's awful. That is the worst story. I did not know that. I'm so sorry, man. I was like, that man, she blew it. You got it.
Well, it's not only that. So
with a great dude, ridiculous.
Yeah. So and then I think we were talking about Oasis a couple weeks ago or something like that, and her name is in the chorus of one of my favorite Oasis songs, Don't Look Back in Anger. And so when it starts to say, oh, so Sally can't wait, she knows it's too late, immediately I hear that song, I'm like, I got to turn that off. That's just ruined an Oasis song, ruined the Lumineers for me. Life can be pretty cool. But not to be a downer, not trying to be a downer. Let's focus on the cheeseburger that I have to enjoy after the show. Let's talk about all that. Epic fail.
Her loss, by the way. Her loss.
Damn right. Epic fail says, I only see 3 snacks on screen right now. Thank you very much.
I like the way you think.
That helps me. Houston TV here. Steve and JT, what's up? What? I don't get any love here, Houston TV? Come on. I'm just kidding with you. Welcome to the show.
The man lost Lumineer tickets. He lost the girl, and now you're gonna just not include. This is a rough night for you, Jorge.
It's not starting off well. I got to be honest with you, but we're gonna do the best we can to course correct as we keep going. Epic fail. Let's get to your question here that you posted a little bit earlier. Thank you very much for. I've been seeing you on all the Fantasy and Frame shows the past few weeks, so thank you very much for joining in. It's a redraft question. Who is the best linebacker pickup out of these choices? D. Winters, Devin Bush, or Servastier Dennis? He owns Levante David as well. So we have a scenario here. Do you get 2 linebackers from the same team? going against a Seattle Seahawks team that actually, in terms of tackle efficiency, allowed both of the starting linebackers for the Arizona Cardinals to have a double-digit tackle efficiency, which I thought was pretty interesting. You go with Devin Bush, who's been kind of a solo-to-assist tackle comparable player, not really blowing you away with the solo-to-assist ratio, but is getting the volume? Or do you go with D. Winters because, things are just horrible in the Bay? Steve, what are your thoughts here?
I got him ranked Winters, Dennis, Bush. I'm weary of Dennis in the upcoming weeks because he's showing flaws he can't cover. But Winters is by far, in a way, my first. If you look at his numbers, his LB2 value is really starting to show. I think I wrote him. Yeah, that's right. I wrote my waiver wire article this week. D. Winters is coming. That's how I titled it. So I'm a big Winters guy. If you look at, he doesn't wow you, but if you look at his overall season that he's having, and he's doing he's doing really well. He's got a great tackle for. That's what it was. He piled 32 tackles over the last 4 games. You can play that. He's got matchups against the Rams, Buccaneers, and Falcons coming up. Those are all solid opportunities. So Winters is my guy out of those 3.
Nice. What about you, JT?
Yeah, I'm in the same. I'm taking Winters as my first choice for sure. I like Dennis. You got the same team. I'd still take him. I still cannot get over Devin Bush absolutely falling apart for the Steelers. So I'm a known Devin Bush hater. So I just can never say Devin Bush ever in any circumstance. So D. Winters,
you just did.
Dennis, then Bush.
You just did.
Only when I talk crap about him. Boom, Devin Bush down.
Oh my God. So I'm actually, I understand what you're saying, Steve, as far as Servassier, Dennis in the coming weeks, the liability and coverage, but Levante David's not exactly known for a coverage, person either. And they're both staying on the field. So I think given the fact that my stat I brought up earlier, as far as the tackle efficiency in the double digits allowed to both linebackers on Thursday Night Football, I think I'd slightly have Dennis, but then Winters for the reasons you had, and Devin Bush, I'm not a Steelers fan, but I understand JT's bias here against Devin Bush. So we'll just go with that. And the solo assist ratio, obviously, is something I'm not a huge fan of as well. But before we get into any more questions, let's get into some IDP news and notes. All right, folks, and don't forget, you're listening to Shoot the Gap. If you like what you're seeing and listening wherever you're watching us right now, you can listen to us in podcast form. Just subscribe to the Shoot the Gap podcast wherever you listen to platforms. It will be available for you tomorrow. And, if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like button and notification bell and subscribe button. So that way, whenever Fantasy and Frames puts out content, you'll get that notification right away. Head over to fantasyandframes.com. Tonight after this show, tomorrow, we got our IDP plays and fades coming out by Joe Harlow, Gary Davenport, who can't make it with us because JT stole too many of his players a couple weeks ago. And now he has it out for, not for us and not for Steve and I, but for JT. They just can't share the screen together. So
is that how you heard it? I heard he had a.
That's what I heard
right now. Me and Gary are in a feud. He's mad about me stealing his players. It's an issue.
I heard it different, guys.
I apologize. I apologize to the entire crew for pissing Gary off.
Players. That's what you're calling them. Because I heard a different term to describe these players that begin with the letter H. But whatever. We'll get into that. Or maybe we won't actually. But
this week. We're gonna get on the censors page eventually. They're gonna be all over us.
Yeah. Well, I think if you don't start the show with profanity or lewdness, then it's okay in between the beginning and the end because the algorithms don't track that as much. Yes, folks, for those of you who are walking into this show right now, this is what you're getting, as well as a lot of defensive talk, as opposed to offensive talk, which was referencing. But yeah, head over to fantasyandframes.com, check out our plays and fades for IDP, check out our IDP waiver wire column. If you missed out on your favorite players that you were targeting in your waiver wire, head over there, see if there's any more that's available. And of course, you could already reach out to Gary at IDP Godfather, as well as the rest of us here on Fantasy and Frames. And I'll be putting up our, what am I going to do here? I'm going to do show display names. There you go. Now you can see where you can follow us on Twitter at Jorge B. Edwards for me, at JT Orens for JT, and at IDP Hunter for Steve. All right, let's get into some news and notes. Man, Andrew Van Ginkel. Man, I miss you, man. I miss you. And it looks like I may not be seeing you again in week 5, according to reports. AVG will be, that's what I'm calling him, by the way, AVG, because I don't know if he has a nickname, but he has one now. Will be held out of practice leading up to week 5, putting him at risk of not playing this week versus Cincy. Ironically, both Dallas Turner and Jonathan Grenard are tied for the team for sacks on the season, and they actually have a similar comparable tackle volume. The interesting fact here is, though, I thought Grenard would have had the larger snap percentage throughout the game last week, but it was actually Turner who played the most snaps in week 4. So something to pay attention to if you're the Andrew Van Ginkel manager and Dallas Turner is available on your waiver wire. Maybe worth picking up here in case AVG can't go this week in week 5. Heading over to Charm City. Yes, it's called Charm City. For those who have never been to Baltimore, Baltimore is known, that's their nickname. They're known as Charm City. Huh. And they even have the audacity on their benches where you're waiting for the bus to come by and it takes you to wherever you need to go. Not only does it say Charm City on the bench, it says the best city in the world. And I'm like, who the hell gave you the how the audacity to say that you are the best city in the world? But in case there are people who are from Baltimore watching this, I'm just going to stop talking right now. Roquan Smith, doubtful to play in week 5 after suffering a hamstring injury versus the Chiefs in week 4. Teddy Buchanan played the team leading snap percentage last week and is assumed to be playing an every down role for the linebacking core for the Ravens if Roquan cannot go this week. And you would have to think with a hamstring injury, that's a very touchy thing, especially for linebackers who need explosiveness to get all over the field and make plays. He ain't playing for a while until that thing gets all cleared up. So this is really the Teddy Buchanan show here for the Ravens, for the next few weeks. So if he's available again, like on your waiver wire and you're the Roquan manager, I'd go get him because something tells me he's going to be used quite a lot. Heading to their division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. JT, last week on Plays and Fades, you faded because we did not know this at the time. You faded the entire secondary for the Pittsburgh Steelers because, and rightfully so, they had not done a gosh darn thing all season long. And then Saturday evening, Deshaun Elliott's back, and it's like, whoa, this. And Deshaun Elliott in Ireland after
changes everything. Everything.
It does. And after kissing the Blarney Stone, and which I hear people piss on, so I kind of feel bad for Deshaun Elliott right now. And then having tons of Guinnesses, he stepped onto the field, with a Guinness in hand, and basically leveled everybody and made plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quick, your thoughts here on Deshaun Elliott?
Well, I'm gonna give away my play for defensive back, but I'm just gonna do it right now since we're already talking about it. Deshaun Elliott is my play for defensive back. Oh my goodness! If I knew he was coming back and was gonna play, I didn't get him in any of my lineups, because I didn't realize he was gonna get in there and get a full. He is a difference maker in the Pittsburgh secondary. Man, they play so much different when he's on the field. The guy is literally all over the place. Monster game last week. This is the guy they wanted. He was a great sign. 10 tackles, 6 solo, a sack, an interception, a forced fumble, 2 pass defense, 26 points on Fantasy Pro scoring, leading the way. Deshaun Elliott's is a real deal. When he has played the last couple of seasons, since he's been in the Steelers, he's been a top 10 defensive player as far as defensive backs are concerned. He proved it once again. I mean, that was just an uninspiring group without him. He gets in there and the team looks totally different. He's a playmaker, especially in big play leagues. We saw it last week. The guy can do a little bit of everything. I love Deshaun Elliott. Man, I was pumped to see him back. I'm glad he had a great game. I was just mad I didn't get him any of my lineups because I had no idea he was going to play. He was questionable the whole week. And then they're like, oh, no, he's just going to play the whole freaking game and dominate. Oh, wish I would have known that. Love Deshaun Elliott. You got to go get Deshaun. If you're in a short bench like redraft league and somebody drafted him because he was hurt and they didn't have spots, go grab him right away. I mean, immediately pick him back up because he is an absolute beast.
I swear Ireland must have the fountain of youth over there. Metcalf had a good game too, so it's nice seeing these guys just blow up over season, and we don't know, and we don't set our lineups right.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, for those who paid attention at the last minute and threw them into your lineups, you benefited very much so.
Mm-hmm.
I was too busy trying to get Jalen Warren 30-plus lineups on Sunday morning early. Oh, that was a disaster to wake up to. I woke up.
And you got to diversify the portportfolio.
Jalen Warren's out. I was like, literally, this is me. My girlfriend's like trying to say something. I'm like, just be quiet.
You know who screwed me last 5 minutes? You know who screwed me the week before? Because I do Fantasy Pros rankings, so I'm doing that, and I barely have time to go my rankings. Juan Jennings was out, but thank goodness that was a 405 game. I was able to shift that around. But yeah, it's getting brutal, especially with the bye week apocalypse coming.
The early morning game got me, man. I said I Jalen Warren. I got him out of every league but two. Two of them, like, they locked as I was changing them. Like, they were like literally locked. I was like, no. I immediately texted the commission. I'm like, can you change him out for me? I was trying to change him. They're like, sorry, no go. There are 2 charity leagues. I still won with Jalen Warren in my lineup out. So that was the only good benefit. I felt like I got a little justified. They didn't take him out of my team, my lineup. They wouldn't switch it for me, but I still got the victory. So I was happy about that.
Let me see if I got this right. Not only are you stealing Gary's players, but you try to cheat in some charity leagues by getting Deshaun Elliott inserted into your lineup after the roster's locked. Interesting.
No,
Interesting.
I didn't ask for
learning
Deshaun
a lot
Elliott
about
out. I just said, can I get Jalen Warren out? I was like, can you give me anybody in my lineup for Jalen Warren?
And
that's why I didn't get Deshaun Elliott in my roster. I would have gotten Deshaun Elliott in.
Excuse me.
I was too worried taking Jalen Warren out. I didn't realize that Elliott was playing. Too many Steelers players on our team. That's what I get.
And then, of course, Detective Hungartner over here found you dropping the F-bomb in a show. So you're dropping F-bombs, you're stealing players, you're trying to
feel bad. Detective Hungar dropped an SH bomb earlier when Jorge was talking about his date. So, what goes around comes around, karma,
Exactly. I love it. Steve, you have any thoughts for us here about like the recent things you've been finding in the league? Particularly, let's start off with the linebacking situation here for New York.
The position change. I thought that was interesting in New York. I try to keep up with this stuff. I write the Every Down Linebacker article as well as the snap count on defensive backs. But for defensive linemen, it's kind of usually the way it is. It's usually sustainable. You don't see too many shifts. But we were seeing the LB2 shift with the Giants. We were seeing Abdul Carter. He was Darius Masu reclaimed his LB2 role, and then that allowed Abdul Carter to shift back naturally to the edge. Masu only played about half the snaps, though, so the team isn't like leaning on him for 3 safety looks or whatever. But I just found that interesting. Abdul Carter got this switch back to where he was thriving from earlier in the season.
Unreal. Yeah, I think didn't Abdul Carter get a sack also last week, if memory serves me correctly? So, JT, we got Juan in the chat asking for a 3 wide receiver league and an RB2 and a flex spot. So, of course, folks, we don't answer questions on offense on air, but JT's got you in the chat, so we will cover your questions regardless. Last bit of news and notes here: Techie Smith, somebody that we've been all really high on, converted cornerback to safety here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just playing a ridiculous amount of box snaps to start the season. Great find at defensive back for you IDP fantasy football managers. Might have suffered an ankle injury in Sunday's loss to Philadelphia. So that is definitely a situation you want to be monitoring the practice reports, get your notifications set up for Tyke Smith, because that could be a big blow. Because let's think about this. If he wasn't, a big name defensive back that you were targeting or hoping you would get in your drafts in the first 24 to 36. Probably was drafting outside of that. So DB3, DB4 flex situation if you are flexing defensive backs. And so you probably punted defensive back and you struck gold. You found a gem in Tyke Smith. And now all of a sudden, if he's out this week, now you're really having to, I don't know if scrape the bottom of the barrel is the best way to describe it. And there are some that we'll tell you about today that could definitely help you out. And if that happens to be the case, Not good, Bob. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals situation here, Steve. Logan Wilson. What are your thoughts on Logan Wilson?
It's really kind of underreported right now. So this is kind of neat that we're going to share some time about this. Logan Wilson was actually in a rotation with Barrett Carter, the rookie, playing just 80% of snaps in week 4. The way I play IDP and answer a lot of our previous questions, I'm looking at a 90, 100% linebacker. He's barely on the cusp of that. So just be careful if this is a reoccurring thing. It's something worth paying attention to. Snaps are going to change from time to time. I don't get excited over 1 week unless it's like a 17 tackle performance, hence Cedric Gray. But I don't get excited over 1 week. But if it's multiple weeks, this is something you have to check your lineups and be mindful of.
I love that. And then let's finish off here with talking about defensive back at the Houston Texans, the cutting of CJ Gardner-Johnson. What are your thoughts on MJ Stewart?
For me, MJ Stewart, he hasn't done anything yet, but 3-1 line. Okay, I'm okay with 3 tackles, 1 solo. It's not eye-popping, but it's usage. And in IDP, you know how it is with these defensive backs. They move around, they shift. So MJ Stewart is a guy that I'm looking at like my 32-team leagues or my 22-team leagues. That's somebody, if I'm going to start 3 or 4, I can probably get away with. I'm not like going to say he's the next greatest thing coming, but he could play that CJ Gardner-Johnson role and give you some surprise snaps, some surprise stats during the bye weeks.
All right, I love it. All right, well, that's going to do our let's talk about the Jets linebacking situation here, specifically at the LB2 spot. Quincy Williams goes on IR. Marcelino McCray-Ball goes on IR. What are we doing at the linebacker situation here, Steve?
So we asked this last week, and JT, I don't know if you got it. I sent you like a text like 12 o'clock at night, 1 a.m. for Sunday. I'm like, it's going to be this guy. It's going to be Francisco Muagu, Mr. Miyagi. It's going to be him because he was the only player available. He only produced a couple tackles, Jorge. That's what you could expect from like a practice squad kind of player. But he did play 90% snaps. So this is another deep league kind of stash if you play waiver wires like that. I write the waiver wire article at Fantasy Six Pack, and I try to do all platforms. So that's the guy I'm mindful of. If Quincy Williams or nobody else can get back on the field, he's a warm body for you getting the snaps.
All right. Well, that's going to do it here for some news and notes here. Let's get into one of our favorite segments here. Let's talk about some money or Mirage. So the premise here is simple. We're going to give you a statement, and we're going to ask you, and we're going to ask each of us here around the frame whether we're buying it. Is it a money statement, or I don't think so. It's a Mirage. And so since you brought up Cedric Gray here a few minutes ago, you dropped the name there, Steve. JT, you actually put that, very that performance here in Money and Mirage. And Cedric Gray for the Tennessee Titans, 17 tackles last week in week 4. He is really a Mirage. He is the LB2 and is somebody you can play weekly going forward, even as an IDP flex.
So JT is the unsung hero of this show, doesn't he? He does all the pass blocking, the run blocking. We're running around. Excellent topic, JT. There's a one-handed golf clap for you. I appreciate you doing that.
Is that a real thing? A one-handed golf clap? I've never heard of that expression before. That's funny.
So for the millennials that don't get this phrase, just the facts. There used to be a TV show, Dragnet. I'm going to give you just the facts on Cedric Gray. Don't go and watch the Tom Hanks movie. It was horrible with Dan Aykroyd. Go back and watch the old Nick at Night 1950s Dragnet show. We're going to give you just the facts. Cedric Gray wowed everybody. There was an LB2 battle. Heck, some people even dropped him. He ends up getting 17 tackles. Wow. Those are the facts. He's gotten 13 of those were solos, right? 13 of those were solos in the third quarter, mind you. Then on top of that, he logged 94% of the snaps. So all of that tells me, don't jump to conclusions yet. We want to have a couple weeks of body of work. But yes, he is somebody. He is money for you. I don't have him starting. I have him picked up. I picked him at a lot of places. I got him on my bench because I want to make sure he's a player you could rely on. However, here's the caveat. As I said, 17 tackles. That's not a sustainable number, Jorge. That's dynamite. That's explosive. That's like trying to worry about a splash play every week. Don't expect 17 tackles out of the man every single week. But if he's in that LB2 role, it's lucrative. It's been lucrative. It's just been split up between people. You can get by with a Cedric Gray as your flex. But yeah, don't expect 17 tackles a week. And those are the facts.
All right. Wow. The people behind Dragnet would be very pleased with what you just did right there. All right. JT, do you agree? Is that money or Mirage?
I think he's money as long as Kazir White stays out. But if he plays like this, I think he stays in. I like Cedric Gray big time coming into the draft. He was one of my top rated linebackers. He was a guy just all over the place. I think if he can stay in there next to Barton, I like him. But these teams tend to lean on the more experienced guys, but I think this Tennessee team is bad. There is no reason not to play Cedric Gray. They should be losing in almost every game. Teams are going to pound the rock against them. There's going to be a chance for a ton of tackles between Gray and Barton. So I like both those guys. I'm buying it. If he can stay in the starting lineup, I like Steve said, he's a flex play for now, but he can move himself up into that LB2 role for sure if things stay the way they are.
All right, let's head over to our next Money Mirage statement. EJ Speed, for fantasy purposes last year, great, awesome. Like, if you didn't have Zaire Franklin, give me EJ Speed. He's going to give me all the points. Every point he's going to be taking him just like that. And then he becomes a free agent. The Colts don't want him back because, as JT will tell you, there's a huge difference between fantasy football performance and on-the-field NFL performance. And that's kind of the reason why the Indianapolis Colts let him go. And so we're wondering, where is he going to go in free agency? Where is he going to go and be that LB1 for fantasy, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Doesn't go anywhere. In fact, he goes to probably the most crowded linebacking core room in all of the NFL with the Houston Texans, where they already have their alpha and Azeez Al-Shaair. They were doing rotations with Henry To'oTo'o and Christian Harris for, every single week. It seems like every other week they were like switching out who's the LB2. And this is where EJ Speed ends up ending up. And so, didn't start the season well, not basically getting a lot of playing time. But then last week, we saw him in week 4, that is, play the second most percentage of snaps of all the linebackers, right behind Azeez Al-Shaair. Al-Shaair is there all the time, 94% total snap share, 95 on first and down, 92 on third and fourth down. EJ Speed, the next highest, was 56% total snap share. The kicker here, though, is on third and fourth down, his snap share was 83%, only behind Al-Shaair's 91. The next highest linebacker had a 17% snap share on third and fourth down, and Christian Harris has had 16.7%. So it is, I want to say, mind-boggling that EJ Speed has started to climb up and started to be commanding, playing a 3-down role almost. Money Mirage, EJ Speed is somebody who we can count on going forward, JT.
Right now, I think it's a Mirage. I don't think you can count on him going forward. The hope is that he officially gets this job as the LB2. If he can do that, then I think you might be money in the future. Because if he can fully take over the LB2 role where he's not sharing, then he has a shot just like Cedric Gray. Very similar situation. Houston is bad. They're real bad. And teams keep getting up on them. They're going to have to come from behind. Had a better game last week because they luckily played the Titans. But they're not going to play the Titans every week. So I think he's got a shot to get a decent tackle share, especially in tackle-heavy leagues, if he can win that job. But for me right now, it's still a Mirage until we see if he starts creeping up that percentage. As long as he's still in that 50-60 range, I don't like it. If he can end up taking over, 80-85% as that LB2 role, then I think he's a playable guy for you. But right now, I'm not putting him in.
What about you here, Steve?
So shout out to Jorge, because these LB2 battle questions you are asking, they're cutting really deep. We're getting right to it in week 5. We're not messing around, are we? To even put that in better context, the EJ Speed was Henry Toho, tomorrow, Toho. He barely outsnapped EJ Speed. It was like 20, 28, 24, whatever it was. But EJ Speed got most of the playing time. He got 95% of the snaps in the second half. Toho only got 25%. So, if that's very telling to see what we're going to have, I won't be surprised if they switch. But to JT's point, it is early. I have picked up Speed in deep waiver leagues, but honestly, it's a Mirage, and here's why. It's not a very lucrative LB2 position because, as you just said it, they usually start the one guy, and Aziz, he logs all those snaps. So, yeah, deep leagues, I can see it. Not a very lucrative role, so just be mindful of that.
All right. Well, before we get into plays and fades, just want to give a shout out to our friends over at Trophy Smack. If you use the promo code Fantasy and Frames 10, the number 10, it gets you 10% off anything they have in stock. Belts, rings, trophies, you name it, they got it. Again, all you have to do is head over to trophysmack.com, use the promo code Fantasy and Frames 10, and watch yourself save some money and hook up your league with a great piece of hardware for your championship bragging rights. JT, you used the promo code Fantasy and Frames 10. You got a new draft board for your league. You're a big fan of that, right?
It's fantastic. Board was great. Stickers were fantastic. They had them up to date. All kinds of. I know other ones. I was in other leagues that use other ones, and they had to write in a ton of player names on the blanks. They had everybody. They also had extra stickers, fun stickers that pass around. League champ, league loser, a bunch of cool things. We gave them some to the draft group. They wore them in the draft. Very cool stuff. Highly recommend if you want to use them. And a reusable board where you can take the stickers off, fold it up. Nice little spot. I used to have a gigantic board. I could never figure out where to put it. A dry erase huge board, but you can fold this one up, put it away, pull it back out for the next season. Everybody in our league loved it. It was great.
All right, let's get into some IDP plays and fades for week 5. All right, folks. So IDP plays and fades, basically for plays, we're going to give you our favorite defensive lineman, linebacker, and defensive back, as well as for fades. But for plays specifically, we're going to give you guys for defensive linemen outside the top 12, for linebackers outside of the top 24, and then defensive back outside of the top 12. And then this is for Fantasy Pros rankings, ECR rankings. So, Steve, why don't you get us started off here for defensive lineman play for you this week?
Oh, yeah, defensive lineman for me. I'm going to go with Joey Bosa, Fantasy Pros DL30. I think that's a mistake. Like I said, we rank over there too. I don't know whose rankings they're using because I actually got Bosa a little higher. I got him as a DL23, which makes him a startable DL2 for people. Bosa is really having an outstanding season considering what we expected out of him, considering what we said about him in the offseason. So as long as he stays healthy, he remains a solid weekly IDP considerable option, keyword here. He produced 2 sacks, 4 QB hits, and get this, he's leading the league in forced fumbles. So what I like about Bosa is he's winning 18.2% of the time pass rush. That is a superior pass rush grade. And also PFF grades him 92.5. That's really good. That's actually third ranked out of 165 edge rushers. Let me say it again. Ranked third out of 165 edge rushers. He's better than people think, and he's got a solid matchup going into New England. So I would consider that just for the pass rush grade. And then the overall PFF grade, mind you, it's an 89.4, which ranks 7th out of 165 edge rushers. So, yeah, I can see New England making a couple of mistakes. So yeah, I'd go Joey Bosa in a pinch as a DL2 and lock that in.
Very nice. JT, who's a play for you at defensive line?
Yeah, for me, I know I've probably talked about this guy more than I should, but I love him, and he finally had his monster breakout game. Tui Puatu for the Chargers. I said he was going to be in the mix with Joey, but gone. Now he's going to see full-time snaps. Man, we saw the big week 4 against the Giants. Finished 9 tackles, 6 solo, 4 sacks, in a forced fumble. He came into the game 16 pressures, but no sacks for the season. Fantasy Pros had 43.8 points to lead the way this week. He absolutely single-handedly won me like 3 IDP leagues that he scored like between 50 and 60 points in some high-scoring leagues. I had 2 leagues with him on the bench because I'm loaded at DN, and I killed myself for not playing him, even though I talked so good about him. I just love Thule. I think Thule, this is the breakout we've been waiting for. I think he's just going to keep piling on this year, man. I absolutely love him. Got to have him in your lineup going forward.
Steve, going back to the Joey Bosa and Buffalo Bills talk, would you rather roll with Bosa or Rousseau here at your defensive line position?
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm going Joey Bosa. You got to go with the girl that you got to take the girl to the prom, right? You got to go with the one that takes you. The expression goes. What does Rousseau have? His pressure rate's low. His snap percentage is low. So he got 3 sacks in the season. So believe it or not, it doesn't sound right. It feels gross, but yeah, it's Joey Bosa right now over Rousseau.
All right. Let me give you my play here at defensive line, and this is a situation where. You know the expression process over results? This really, really applies to this person because this person should have, a handful of sacks, right? He's the best graded edge rusher, pass rusher on his team. He has double-digit pressures. He has a low missed tackle rate. He's gotten, per PFF, 12 total tackles, great solo to assist. So he's giving you all the upside that you want, and to Steve, to your point last week and just bringing it up this week, for defensive linemen or edge rushers, especially those outside linebackers, like we want some players that have, an elevated floor on top of whatever big plays they're able to give. Right. So, if you have somebody who gets you like 3 or, 2 tackles or 4 tackles a week, like, we want better, right? We want that established tackle for where we can have a higher floor, and therefore when they get a sack or a tackle for a loss or a QB hit, depending on your league scoring, that only amplifies them. That's this player, Jalen Phillips. He has on the season, he has 13 total pressures per PFF. Like I said, he has 12 tackles, missed tackle rate of 7.7%. So the guy is hitting home. He's getting home. But he's just not converting when he's getting home. He's at the doorstep, but for some reason he's trying to knock on the door, but something's grabbing his fist. It's just not letting him make contact with the door to get in there. On the flip side, Bradley Chubb is probably the worst graded pass rusher on the Miami Dolphins, has 7 pressures, but he has 3 sacks. Like, that is, to me, an anomaly of an anomaly. The Carolina Panthers this week, heading into last week, had allowed 0 sacks on the season, which blew my effing mind. Now, after this past week, they've allowed 2. So some cracks in the wall are starting to appear on that offensive line for the Carolina Panthers, and I think this is the week where Jalen Phillips and his metrics finally start to pay dividends because – again, it's one of those things where I hate saying, like, man, so-and-so was lucky because they fell into a sack or something along those lines. And maybe there's some validity in the fact that Jalen Phillips was pressuring these quarterbacks, was hurrying these quarterbacks and chasing them right into Bradley Chubb. And he's like, damn it, that was my guy, but he was running away from me because I was applying the pressure. And then the other guy who's horrible at applying pressure just happened to be there at the right space at the right time. I'm not saying that that's a thing, but logically speaking, I'm sure it does happen and it has happened. I'm not trying to totally crap on Bradley Chubb here, but it should be Jalen Phillips who's paying the dividends, and I think sooner rather than later he's going to get home, especially against a pass blocking unit that has gotten progressively worse as the season has gone on with Carolina. So that is my play at LB. DL. Let's go to LB. Let's go to our plays and fades at linebacker. Let's get back to you, Steve. Who is your play at linebacker this week?
So I'm not necessarily like wowed or thrilled by it, but Fantasy Pros got Terrell Bernard as their LB22. He's going to shatter that. LB22 is way low. I get it. What do we have? A thing called recency bias. We got a bad taste in our mouth, but he did have a decent last game. Here's what I find interesting. So I'm interested. I'll put it like that. He's playing the Patriots. Like I said, I'm interested. The Patriots give up the 4th most points to the linebacker. Again, I'm interested. Let's look at the case in this guy. He is the undisputed LB1. There's nobody there he has to worry about. Matt Milano's injured. Everybody else is a rotational piece. And then I know people are talking about Dorian Williams as a pickup. The guy's getting 75% of snaps. He got 84 last week. And he's only producing, like 6 tackles? No one's in the way of this guy having a good game on a good thing. Again, like I said, I'm not thrilled by it, but I'm certainly interested. And there's a universe out there. There's a multiverse universe, right? Grant Morrison probably already wrote the comic book, where I can see Toward having an LB 14-16 week just because of the usage. So I think that's insanely low. That's another one of those things. Fantasy Pros got him as a 22. I don't see that happening.
No, I love that. Love that. All right, let's go to my linebacker. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. I'm in on Servaste Dennis this week. ECR linebacker 39 versus a run-heavy Philly offense last week. Had an 18.9% tackle efficiency, played 91.4% of snaps. Going against the Seattle Seahawks this week, that is also a very run-heavy offense. And to the point I was making, versus Seattle, the Cardinals had 2 of their starting linebackers who played a majority of snaps have tackle efficiencies above 10%. So it's one of those things where it's, you have the efficiency at the linebacking position. You have the fact that for some reason this offensive line can't get to the next level and block these linebackers from attacking these running backs. You have, Kubiak and the Seattle Seahawks offensive philosophy where it's pound on, pound the rock. Sam Darnold's not playing that great. So they have to kind of compensate that with the running game here in Seattle. And all that means is a lot more opportunity here for these linebackers. And to Steve's point about, coverage being the Achilles heel for Dennis, absolutely. And so is it for Levante David. And none of these guys are coming off the field, though, because you know what? They don't have any better options. And now we're saying earlier, Tyke Smith might not even play because he has a potential ankle injury. Even more of a reason why not to take him off the field. So Servaste Dennis is in line for a good performance this week against the Seattle Seahawks. We'll get the JT in JT, welcome back. Are you ready?
He was playing.
He was playing.
Yeah, I'm ready to roll. Sorry about that. Had a quick bathroom break. I'm back in the mix. My guy this week is Demetrius Knight, Cincinnati Bengals. We saw him last week. He's right now, I think he's LB 51 in the ERC. The guy, he is looking like, he's an experienced guy. We came in, kind of people ripped him like, oh, he's pretty old already. He's cut for like 6-7 years. But to me, he was ready to come in and play right away. He was a guy that where they drafted him, I was like, ooh, I got to start taking notice of this guy. He's going to be in the mix. They let Jermaine Pratt go. They let him come in and take that spot. And then he led the Bengals in total defensive snaps last week for linebackers, just under 88%. He was 92% on first and second down. So he's their run stuffer at this point. Still saw 66% on third down and fourth downs. I probably ends up being the guy if they go dime, but I think he'll be on there. Led the team 11.3% tackle efficiency at 8 tackles per PFF last week. He's a guy who just keeps getting better. Depending on where you looked, some people had him credited for 10 tackles last week. PFF had 8, but he also had an interception, had a pass defense. He's just getting better. He's a dog. He's one of those guys you watch play and you're like, man, that guy he just is always in the mix. He's always sticking his nose in and every tackle. He's a guy who can add assists when he probably shouldn't even get an assist, but he gets over there to make sure he gets a piece. So I like Knight a lot going forward. I'm not totally out on Wilson yet. I know some people a little dog. He lost some snaps last week. They were losing pretty big. My guess is they were trying to see some other guys, just see what they got. But I think Knight's a fixture there for the Bengals. And if we saw what we saw last week, the Bengals are in trouble without Joe Burrow. Their defense is not good. They're going to be on the field a lot. That just means tackles for your linebackers. I like it. I'm in on Demetrius Knight.
Love it, love it, love it. Let's get to the defensive back spot. Let's go back to you, Steve. Who's your play at defensive back this week?
Hey, so full disclosure, when we were doing our sheets up, I wrote this thesis. I wrote this long thesis on Jaquan Brisker, and I'm like, where's he at? Where's he at? He's on a bye week. Y'all ever did that before? I totally did that. So I'll just save it for next week.
I've totally done it.
I'll just save it. I had this whole thing. I'll be short real quick. I'm going to go to the well one more time on Tyler Nubin, okay? Tyler Nubin, we've been ragging on the last couple of weeks. We've been doing it, right? What did we say to previous shows? He's got, Belton taking his, box snaps, and he's got other players taking his slot snaps. There's new developments. I watched every single Giants game, and I'm going to give you this nugget on this show. Whenever they have the third safety come in, whenever their third safety comes in, Nubin or the third. So the cornerback, the CB3 is Holland and Nubin are the clear-cut starters. Don't get me wrong. But when the CB3 comes in, Drew Phillips, and or if the safety 3 comes in, Belton, regardless of the formation, the two starters, Nubin and Holland, they go back in coverage. 100% of snaps every single time. I challenge you, look it up. Why am I saying all this? His role just keeps decreasing every single week. And me and you, we're all Nubin fans, right? We were all big-time Nubin fans. I have him as like my last player on my rosters right now. I want to get rid of him. I can't quit it. But he's a super fade right now, just given on the news that we've seen. And it's every game. It's all 5 games. So it's not like something new. I'm a guy that likes to wait before I make crazy accusations. But yeah, not only is he a coverage guy, he's getting his box plays. Here's one more for you guys. Whenever there's an obvious run play, Belton ends up being the box defender, not Nubin. So everything's spelling doom there. So I'm going to go one more time on Nubin, and I won't talk about him again the rest of the season because we know there are several candidates this year, and this one's the Jorge. As you know, there's several candidates this year. We've talked about Bates. We've talked about Nubin. We're talking about Brisker. There's several DB1s. You can't draft them as DB1s, can you? Because the scheme changes so much. And now we're all looking crazy. We're scrambling for the next best thing. So that's it. I'm going to give you Nubin one more time, and I'll promise I'll give you something fresh next week.
Love it. Before we get to your play at defensive back for a second, want to shout out Philip the Fifth. Thank you very much for the donation. You're always here hooking us up here at Fantasy and Frames, and so we really appreciate that. So it
was my Nubin take that made him give up the $2. That's
apparently, yeah, that's how much he thinks of Tyler Nubin, and just a couple bucks. That's a signing bonus he would give. Anyhow, Philip, if you're over on Twitter, at me at Jorge B. Edwards, I'll send you some stickers and a koozie and some swag. So thank you very much for your donation. Really appreciate it. We got a question here. I want to go back here to Viking Skull Quest. Why are some players better at pressures but never sacks?
Good question.
That's a great question. One of the things we have to think about is from the other side of the ball and win rates allowed. And so you could have a guy who's really good at pressuring, off the edge or on the defensive line. But if you're taking on a pass blocker or an offensive tackle that just doesn't allow pressures, like, the impossible force meets the immovable object, like you're just not going to get the productivity there. So I think you have to take into account the other side of the ball and the matchups there, just like you would wide receiver, cornerback matchup. You got to take into account the edge defender or defensive lineman and offensive lineman counterpart.
I kind of want to hear what JT has to say, being a real actual coach, but for IDP purposes, some players, their whole role is just to set the edge. That's all they're going to do. They're not there to get the sack, they're just there to set the edge. 4-3 defensive ends, 3-4 linebackers. It's those big ogres in the middle. They're just coming to try to fall on somebody. You know what I mean? But you're going to have players like that's their whole purpose, is just see quarterback and run towards him. But yeah, those are my thoughts too, JT.
Yeah, you definitely have guys that like their job is to push the guy in the pocket. So they want to come on the blitz no matter what. They're going to get pressures no matter what because they're pushing the QB. And that's where you'll still sometimes see a guy who will get a ton of pressures but not get the sack. But he's the guy pushing him into the other guys on his team who end up getting the sacks. But you're like, why does that guy have any pressures? but he gets sacks. That's why is you have that guy that's pushing him and moving the quarterback in the pocket. And that's what's getting other guys maybe sacks where they're not the ones producing the pressure, but they're the beneficiary of a guy that is pushing that pressure and is getting that guy into your space. Some guys do both. They'll get the pressure, they stay with it, they get up, they get the sack. But a lot of times on some of those guys, it is the other guy, honestly, which is why in IDP leagues, I like to do QB hits and I like to do some pressures, get some points on those because those guys get deserved if they're the ones bringing the heat the whole time. Maybe they're not getting home, but they're bringing the heat the whole time. I think they need credit for that. So I think that's the big differences. And like Steve said, certain DNs, their job is to hold the edge. And if that quarterback gets pushed out, then they make the sack. Their job is not to come in blitzing, hair on fire to get the sack. They're setting the edge, making sure the running back, nobody gets outside them. And then after they get their 1-2 count, they realize it's a pass play. Then they can kind of now collapse the pocket. Where if you collapse that pocket right away, yes, NFL teams see that and they immediately run off counter, something off the edge. And that's where you see those guys get snuck inside and bam, a huge play goes outside of them. So that's
well
also
said.
Where you see that a lot.
Dante Fowler last year sold out for sacks, and you've seen how that screwed up his metrics as well. But yes, some guys are just there for containment. Well said. I knew you had it in you, JT. We should just do a podcast together on just your football team and what you do. That's what we need to do.
I love it. All right, Steve, real quickly, who's your play at defensive back? We already went through your fade.
Right. So I actually got two. I'll make it quick. I got a bonus one for you. I didn't put this on anything yet. There's a new player that's leading the NFL in box snaps. It's no longer Mooring. He's already dipped down the fourth because of his poor game. Be on the lookout, guys, for Marcus Sigel. He's a rookie of the 49ers, 257 snaps, 135 box snaps. That's all I'm going to say right now. That Facebook chat that we're in, that IDP one ran by Will Holtz, it's cold on those streets. You got guys in that chat that are geeking out about Sigel right now. They're dropping name players like, I don't know, Holland, Delpit for Sigel. So if that's a waiver wire stream you can get, hop on him. But that's not the guy I want to talk about. I want to talk about Shamiri Connor of the Chiefs because this is probably the last week or two I'm going to get to talk about him. Jorge, we always talk about box snaps, right? Hell, I write the report, box snap article, right? There's other snaps that are important, though. There's slot snaps. There's some of these guys play defensive line. There's those snaps within the box. I'm going to say that 1 or 2 inches. We need to develop a new name. Let's call it the G spot for now. They got their hand on the G spot, right? They're within that kill zone, okay? Shamiri Connor is a G spot warrior, okay? 244 snaps, 83 of them in the box. Okay, 83 and 106 are on the slot. This guy gets everywhere. I did the math. I threw in his defensive line snaps too. Shamiri Connor plays 74.6, nearly 3/4 of his snaps in those G spot areas. Okay, I know I'm going to get made fun of for that later. You guys come up with a better name later. But he's in the G spot 75% of the time. He's making high-impact plays. He did it as a rookie as well. He had 77 combined tackles last year just playing part-time. Week 4's matchup was brutal. I was kind of quiet. I didn't want to bring it up last week because, the Ravens don't really give much up, but he survived with 4 tackles. So if that's his floor week to week, he's owned in just 10% of leagues. This is a guy right now, Fantasy Pros has him DB 16, 17, whatever. He can be a DB1 for you somewhere. So just keep an eye out for that. Shamiri Connor.
The G-Spot Warrior. Awesome. We should have T-shirts made, sell them on Fantasy Frames. I'll give you 90% of the proceeds there because that would probably sell out.
Yeah, Gary would love that one. Too bad he's not here.
Yeah, another player for Gary, right? I really hope he goes back. I'm going to make clips of this and put this on our TikTok and YouTube.
Please do.
And tag him.
Gary, you can't have all the players.
He just wants his one player. That's all he wants. But JT took it. Anyhow, you mentioned alignment. You were talking about the different spots that matter on the field, and this is a guy who the past couple of weeks, you look at week 3 and week 4, has graded out as the best safety on the Buffalo Bills. Has a great solo to assist tackle, 8 solos to 2 assists per PFF, a 0 miss tackle rate. His counterpart has 41 box snaps, so his counterpart actually has more box snaps than his 36. But Cole Bishop has 13 defensive line alignment box snaps, playing closer to the line of scrimmage, assisting and run support, assisting and helping to get to the quarterback. Whereas you have Taylor Rapp, 0 defensive alignment box snap or defensive alignment snaps, more free safety snaps, playing out in corner. So Cole Bishop has been really turning it on the past few weeks. He's even good in coverage. That's the thing. We see the increase in snap percentage in coverage when quarterbacks target him. Whenever he's playing in a coverage role, he allows a quarterback passer rating of only 33.3%. Dare I say Cole Bishop is turning the corner for the Buffalo Bills, or at least has been past 2 weeks, week 3, week 4, and is in line to do it again this week. So I'm going Cole Bishop, as my play this week. JT, who's your defensive back?
I talked about it earlier, so I won't rehash it to everybody, but Deshaun Elliott, if somebody dropped him in your redraft or even in Dynasty League, if somebody dropped him because he was injured and they wouldn't pick somebody else up, Deshaun Elliott is an absolute wrecker in the secondary. He's who Minkah Fitzpatrick was for the Steelers 4 years ago. That's now just take your mind and look at Deshaun Elliott and think of Minkah Fitzpatrick 4 years ago. You're getting that guy with way more value, way more value, because the name Deshaun Elliott is not as big as what Minkah Fitzpatrick was at the time. So he's an absolute steal right now. If somebody got off because of the injury, he showed that he's a do everything player, and in big play leagues, he's that safety you want because they do a little bit of everything with him, and he's always in the mix. So Deshaun Elliott is my guy.
All right, let's quickly get to our fades, and then we'll get the sack lunch before we get out of here, and we'll go rapid fire. My fade at defensive lineman for the week, maybe sacrilegious to say, but it's Jonathan Cooper, Broncos, Eagles. Per PFF, the Eagles are a top 10 unit in pass blocking. They allow the 5th fewest sacks on the season so far. And I don't want any matchup, regardless of who it is. Maybe Nick Bonito, if I had to pick an edge rusher here, just because he brings you the big play upside as well as the tackle floor that Jonathan Cooper doesn't bring as consistently. So I'm going to fade Jonathan Cooper this week, which may be a boldish or hottish take versus the offensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles. Steve, who's your defensive lineman?
So my fade is Josh Hines Allen, Fantasy Pros DL16. He's playing the Chiefs. A little character development here. Josh Hines Allen, what does he do? Pressures, doesn't really get sacks. So he's got a half a sack, 4 games. Offensive line of the Chiefs, what do? Character development. They give up pressures, but they don't give up sacks. Character development. What does Patrick Mahomes do? He runs the heck out of sacks. He's a magician. So it's a bad matchup for Allen. It's a great matchup for the Chiefs. Let's fade him.
All right, JT, who's your faded defensive lineman?
Keon White. I apologize. Keon White for the Patriots. Great start last year. 16 tackles, 4 sacks in the first 2 games of the season. Since then, 1 sack in his last, I think it's 17 games. Not good. Keon White was kind of that guy that busted out early. He kind of is a defensive tackle in leagues last year, so he's a little bit of a cheat code early. He's now not considered a defensive tackle anymore. He is considered a D end. He is not producing at all. All the hype last year that we liked at the beginning of the year, we're like, yes, I'm out. Keon White he's at this point droppable if he's even on your team. The guy is not producing whatsoever for the Patriots for a guy that was a high draft pick. It was nice while it lasted. First 2 weeks of 2024, but it's been a nightmare for him since.
All right, let's get into linebacker fades. Mine's pretty simple. Tyrese Knight. Where the hell did Drake Thomas come from? That all of a sudden he decided the Seahawks decided, an hour before kickoff, hey, Tyrese Knight, you're gonna ride the pine. We're gonna have Drake Thomas play 65.7% of snaps last week versus Arizona Cardinals. I don't like that. That screams things aren't bueno here in this linebacking core. And it kind of makes sense when you kind of look at it. You have Ernest Jones, who's that run stopping thumper linebacker, and Tyrese Knight always had a little bit of the kind of like a 1A, 1B type of situation there in terms of skill set matching. Whereas Drake Thomas is better of a coverage linebacker than Tyrese Knight. So maybe they're looking for a little bit more balance in that linebacking core in terms of skill sets on the field. Either way, this doesn't bode well for Tyrese Knight. Granted, it is 1 week, but at the same time, when you start to logically kind of piece things together, I think this is more of a indictment on the fact that the coverage skill is leaning more in Drake Thomas's favor for the Seattle Seahawks. So he's my fade at linebacker this week. Steve, who's your fade at linebacker?
Nick Bolton, Fantasy Pros LB12. I think that's too high. I think there's some jackassery going around here. Just the way the script is going to work, I think the Jaguars are going to be behind early, and they're going to have to pass to get out of it. One thing Nick Bolton does not do well, he's not a good coverage guy. He ranks 47th. That's 89th out of 131 linebackers. I believe that's dead last, or that's second dead last. It's one of those as a starter, but he's got declining coverage skills. He's not going to be able to do what he normally likes to do. Jaguars got great weapons at tight end, running back, short crossing routes. I don't know. I don't see this as a good matchup for Nick Bolton. And even if he does get a tackle or 2 or 3 or 4, I don't see him as an LB12. I could think of 30 other names I'd like there.
JT, who's your favorite linebacker?
Nick Bolton hurts my soul, but I think Steve's correct there. One of my all-time favorite players. I love Nick Bolton, but I think he's correct. I think you got to fade him this week. For me, it's Henry Tutu. We talked about it earlier with EJ Speed cutting into his snaps. I don't want any part of this Texans at the moment that isn't Al-Shaair. So I'm out on him. Like, sit him. If you had him and you were playing him, I'm out on him. You got to get away from that second linebacker for the Texans until you can figure out exactly what they're doing there.
All right, let's get into defensive back. Steve, get us started on defensive back fade.
I already said it. Tyler Nubin. No more questions, Your Honor. I plead the fifth.
So for mine, it's kind of cheating, but it's not. It's Kyle Duggar. I understand he came on in replacement of Jalen Hawkins and played like the big box snap percentage, but don't go chasing that just yet. Let's find out if Hawkins is going to be good to go this week. If he's not, then that changes my opinion a little bit there, because we all know how good Kyle Duggar can be. But I would fade him even if I would fade him obviously if Hawkins is available to go. I wouldn't worry about him eating into any box snap percentages there for the New England Patriots. JT, who's your DB fade for the week?
So my fade for this week is Eric Murray, Jacksonville safety. Kind of was one of those like sneaky waiver wire pickups the first couple weeks. If you kind of faded DB and you're waiting to see kind of who hit, Eric Murray was your guy early on. First 2 weeks, he had 2 top 20 DB finishes. So you're like, oh, run out the waiver wire. Let me get Eric Murray. He'll help my team out. Last 2 weeks, he's killed you. Down to 45% snap. D safety, 65th and 102nd finish and defensive back scoring the last 2 weeks per Fantasy Pros. Eric Murray, maybe 1 week of him in week 2 if you picked him up after week 1. Nah. Get out on Eric Murray. Get out on him.
All right, that's going to do it for plays and fades. Let's get into our sack lunch. So again, we're basically, you get to pick one player, any position on the field you want. So if you want to be ballsy and pick a defensive back to get a sack for you and you hit, hey, more power to you. But you pick one player one time throughout the season to get a sack each week, and we'll do a running tally. We'll summarize everything when Gary comes back next week. But for me, my sack lunch is Jalen Phillips, 13 total pressures on the Dolphins versus the Carolina Panthers. He finally hits home this week, getting his first sack. He's my guy I'm picking here. JT, who's your guy?
I'm going Brian Burns. He's on an absolute tear right now. 5 sacks already this season. Has a sack in every game. Going up against the Saints, they've given up 9 sacks this year already. I think Brian Barnes just keeps burning. I think he keeps it going. I think he adds a 6th, maybe a 7th this week. I like it. He's just on fire right now for the Giants. Burns gets you home this week against the Saints.
All right, Steve, who's your guy?
Myles Garrett, matchup against the Vikings. Last season, they gave up 2.9 sacks per game. Somehow it's gotten worse. The Vikings are the worst team. They lead the NFL. They're giving up 18 sacks in just 4 games. To add more insult to injury, they have 3 out of 5 of their offensive linemen are injured right now. Right tackle Brian O'Neill sprained his MCL. He should be out for the game. Center Ryan Kelly had a concussion. Left guard Donovan Jackson is already out with a wrist injury. So to sum it all up, they're banged up. They're not very good, and Myles Garrett's coming to town.
Let's throw up this last question before we get out of here from Badger. Welcome to the show. Thoughts about Drew Phillips? Feel like he's been balling out and has a good matchup versus the Saints. Is it okay to start him what was he trying to say? Start him in some for Jordan Battle or in a flex? Would you sub him in for Jordan Battle or throw him in an IDP flex there, Steve?
Normally I don't. Like I'm a little biased with cornerbacks and like free safeties, defense. If I don't have to play them, I don't. So the short answer would be no. But in all reality, this week I think highly of Battle. I have him in the top 10. Just full disclosure, I like the matchup, so I'm going to say no and no and no again.
There we go. All right. Well, that's going to do it here for Shoot the Gap. Again, wherever you listen to podcasts, subscribe to the Shoot the Gap podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe. We appreciate it. Head over to fantasyandframes.com, IDP rankings, plays and fades, waiver wire, and of course, come back here next week as we'll be doing it all again. Hopefully, Gary will be back talking about some players and some players. So for Steve, JT, I'm Jorge. We'll see you.